why don't we go ahead and get started? Thank you everyone for joining us for today's session. We've got two very special guests with us today. We've got Bukola, who's calling in from outside of Lagos, Nigeria, and Lynn, who's calling in from Florida. So they'll be leading a discussion on the digital divide and strategies for addressing digital inequity through distance learning. So we're very excited to hear about this topic today. As a quick disclaimer for security on Zoom, we've disabled video for today, but we still encourage you to connect and engage with one another, share throughout the discussion, connect with each other, share contact information into the chat box. Any comments that you share, we'll have reflection periods here and there throughout the presentation as well. Veronica will read some of the comments in the chat box. We'll also be recording the content portions of this session so that we can share with peers who are unable to attend today. That means that anything that you share with us today will not be shared out in the recording, so any anecdotes will be erased beforehand. So feel free to share as much or as little as you're comfortable sharing during this call. That said, we would love everyone who's in attendance to quickly introduce yourselves in the chat box, share your name, your location, and maybe a fun fact about yourself.
I have Minu from India, Paki from Spain, Aaron sending a shout out to NEA friends, Susan from New Hampshire, Lenny from Honduras, Jesse from Washington State, Jesse from Ghana, Jennifer from Tucson, Arizona, Sunny from Serbia, seen a couple people from Serbia, Alvin from the Philippines, Alexandra from Serbia as well, Natalie Richards from Oregon. So lots of people from all over the place today. So happy to have you guys here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started with the actual presentation. So we'd love to quickly introduce ourselves on the Empatico team. Those of us who have been instrumental in creating the Empathy Hours and launching them, not to mention all the educators that we've had who have come in and co-hosted these incredible sessions that we've had to date. Veronica is a program associate at Empatico, so she's involved with content creation and programs like our fellowships, which I know many of you have participated in the past. She's passionate about leveraging research findings into practical matters, whether that's evidence-based content you use on Empatico or evidence-based well-being practices. My name is Noah. I've been on the Empatico team for about 2.5 years now. I was a teacher for 7 years before pivoting out of the education world into ed tech. I taught for 3 years in Madrid and then taught another 3 years as a transitional bilingual teacher here in New York City, and did curriculum design for a while before joining the team at Empatico. And then finally, Eliana works on developing partnerships at Empatico. She was an English teacher in Argentina and worked on a number of projects to bring authentic cultural experiences into the classroom before joining our team. So thank you again for joining us today. I'd love to turn it over to our two wonderful co-hosts, Bukola and Lynn. So I'll turn it over to the two of you to quickly introduce yourselves as well.
All right. Thank you, Noah. My name is Bukola-Amao Taiwo. I'm a lifelong learning educator at Perfection Gate Schools, Lagos, Nigeria. I'm a global classroom connector, and I'm Empatico Kindness Fellow. I do a lot of things with teachers living in the low-income and underserved communities, which we do trainings under an initiative called TQ, Teachers Teaching Teachers Network. And I also founded a skills school, an online learning community for elementary school children. Basically, I like connecting lifelong learners so that we can also grow lifelong learners from the classroom. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us, Bukola.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
And then we've got Lynn joining us today as well. Lynn, if you could introduce yourself, that would be fantastic.
Sure. My name is Lynn Mitchel. I live down in Weston, Florida, which is near Fort Lauderdale. And I'm a 4th grade teacher. I've been a teacher for about 17 years. I'm team leader at my school. and I've presented at various national and local conferences about innovation in the classroom. And I'm a lifelong learner, but I really feel strongly about making global connections for both myself and for my students, and really for everybody. So thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for joining us. So with that in mind, we're going to go ahead and share the objectives for today. So we'll be discussing the different shapes the digital divide can take, how it manifests in different contexts, the ways in which these gaps continuously widen. We'll be exploring strategies for fostering digital literacy and resilience for children and their families as they move into the remote learning space. And we'll be reflecting on the ways global connections can ease that transition into distance learning for students, for educators, for caregivers, and in doing so, mitigate the negative impacts of student learning. So with these objectives front and center, I'd love to turn it over to Bukola and Lynn.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Noah, Veronica, and the Empatico team for having us. If you take a look at this picture, this is our story. This is Lynn and I. Lynn actually prepared this bit, emoticon for us, and our story started when we were connected on Empatico. She was supposed to be my partner teacher, and the first teacher I had, something didn't go right and we didn't continue until I got to Lynn, and Lynn was paired with me. Till now, we've not gotten over each other. For 3 years, we've been on Empatico. This is our second set of students together. I'm not going to dwell much on this, and we've been exchanging knowledge right from the classroom. We've been exchanging moments together. I can't forget the first moment we had with Lynn. Our first interaction was supposed to be, was canceled because Lynn lost her dad. But it was such an emotional time for us because my students had to go into the same space with her and commiserate with her on the loss of her dad. So we became connected so much that in my trainings with teachers, Lynn has come up once or twice to strengthen their skills, to equip them with skills they require for work in the classroom. And right now, since I started Maths on Zoom session for kids, I actually run some Maths on Zoom session for kids on Mondays, and it's free for kids on Mondays. Lynn has come up several times. She was at our last award night, and she was such a beauty to behold because everyone was happy because we had a lot of diversity in the room. It's brought in possibilities. What I'm saying now is because we were connected on Empatico, we had several possibilities that brought in life to our classrooms, new knowledge, new skills, new opportunities, and new capacities were opened up for us. Thank you. Can you move this on to the next slide?
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about the programs that we've done together and the way we've pulled people in a little bit later on. But first, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, what is the digital divide? So Education World, as you can see, says it's the gap between people who have access to computer technology and those who don't. But really it involves three things. You need a device, you need internet, and the third part that people don't focus on as much because the first two need to come first is having digital literacy and understanding what you can do and how you can leverage the internet. If you could click on, Noah. So it involves digital literacy because I think everyone understands a device is a device, internet is the ability to connect. Digital literacy involves these three things. You're combining your ability, your awareness, and your attitude to maximize your opportunities. Because once people understand what they can accomplish or how they can reach their goals by leveraging, we'll keep using that word because that's really what it is. So by leveraging the internet to better their lives, then it makes a huge difference. Click. Okay, so we just made this, you know, we played around with the different shapes when we said, because I know when I first thought about digital divide, I always think about economic status. And I also think about the geography, because if you're living in a place, honestly, Bukola has a little more difficulty connecting sometimes because of where she's located. I usually do not. Economic status also, who has the devices, who's in the area. But there's also other ones. There's age, because very often older people have are not as caught up on the latest and the greatest trends. Race is another one. And really gender is one of the, I don't want to say most important, but it's one of the up and coming ones that people are focusing on. And I have to admit that it's something that I did not give a lot of thought to before we were talking about this talk. So if we could, next slide. And here is, you can see this is, it says where it's from the bottom, and this is 2018, but this is the gender gap. So in the light pink, you can see that people who live in those areas, women have about the same ability to connect as men. But as you get darker, brighter red, and then darker, you can see that there is a huge divide in a lot of areas of the world. So I just wanted to point that out, and then we can go to the next slide. My friend Bukola is gonna start with this section.
So what are the ways in which these gaps are continuously widening? The digital space is such that, especially because we're using it in the educational sector, is such that we have to collaborate with parents, we have to collaborate with teachers, we have to identify the difficulties of our students right in the same classroom. You might be surprised that you will be in the same classroom, give the same worksheet, but a child will be able to turn it in immediately, and another child will not be able to do that until a parent comes home with a device. What that means is that we have the opportunity to help them, we have the opportunity as educators to support the children who might be left behind in the digital divide. What that means is that we should not play on a level playground with everyone. We need to personalize children experiences. We need to give them specialized services that help them, that helps to create solutions for for individual children in our classroom. For example, if I give an assignment now and I observe that a child is unable to come up onto Zoom, it is my responsibility as an educator to give options to that child. Can you do this on WhatsApp? Are you going to adopt Google Classroom? Which is more convenient for you? We can't just use the same metrics to keep measuring the kids. We need to work together with the children, work together with the parents. We need to work together with their timing. Sometimes you have a parent saying, oh, I can't be on your Zoom class by XYZ time, but you can send the worksheet for me on WhatsApp. We need to be able to provide support for such a parent. We need to be able to provide support for such a child so that he will not also be left out. As the digital divide is widening, there are enablers and there are barriers. There are barriers that will stop us, that will make us to increase the digital device and the divide. And there are also enablers. Some of the enablers are the resources we share and how we share them. We must be careful to know how we give out our information and how we support each other. Teachers also have a role to play in supporting one another. I think there's another slide ahead that I'm going to speak more about this. One of the major things I take out of Empatico is the fact that we need to be kind to ourselves, we need to be kind to one another, and we need to learn to take one step at a time. At the beginning of the pandemic, there was temptation for people to start using various devices at a time because you just want to go into the virtual space, you want to deliver, you want your kids to keep learning. But I think we need to slow down as teachers to look at the tool that best fits our local realities. It is when we examine the demography where we work from, when we examine the kind of students we have, like Lynn said, their geography, their socioeconomic background, then we will be able to say, oh, this is what works best for us. It's a time to support each other, but at the same time, we also need to work with the people we serve to ensure that we're giving the best per time. Now, if you look at the next slide, you see that this is Kenya. And Kenya is having an internet balloon now from Google, beaming the internet. What that means is that everyone might have access to the internet. It makes it easier for people to connect. It makes it easier to continue. Over here in Nigeria too, I saw someone, I read from the chat that someone said, okay, there's free internet somewhere. Over here in Nigeria, there might not be free internet, but what we have is some telecom companies giving free e-learning data. And at a time, I heard that the Lagos State government was also giving out radio sets. What that means is that learning is possible through the radio, and the government is making use of that opportunity to reach children through the radio and television. Can I have the next slide, please? However, whatever our government are able to put in place, this is another example from the United States, and this excites me. I just hope, I just wish I could just copy this and paste it on Africa, you know? This is a school bus, and when I saw this online, I found that this goes into a Wi-Fi locations where children have access to internet because the Wi-Fi is inside the school bus. There's also another one in which we found that the same school bus that brought the Wi-Fi is also giving out school lunch to kids. To me, that is phenomenal, and that is a lot of support for learners, because if they don't eat, they can't continue learning. The next slides, please. So what we're saying is, if government is able to provide the school bus and able to provide a balloon. Can you all hear me?
You're kind of going in and out, Bukola, so we kind of missed, we heard the other slides, but this slide, we did not hear you clearly.
The next slide, please. Yes. Structure support. And sometimes the scenario in Africa is a bit different from what we have in the North. Okay, on the previous slide or on this slide, did you hear, did I finish the Kenya and the school bus?
Yes, you did.
Okay, can I go back to the family, the 3 circles? Yes. All right, Veronica, thank you so much. I'm so sorry about that. I'm linking up from my village, so I'm so sorry. They might be a little different from what I have in Lagos. So what strategies can we use to foster digital literacy and resiliency for children and their families as we move into the remote learning space? It is becoming real to us. Face-to-face classes are becoming unpopular. No one wants his child to die of coronavirus. No school wants to shut down. Now what we have is blended learning, and we must try to use method and tools that will help us to connect and leave no one behind. I said it earlier that as a teacher, you need to take decisions based on the data of your students, on the data of your parents, on the data of the resources you have, of the networks you have, of the support structures that you have as a teacher. For me, on Maths on Zoom, we use the Zoom video conferencing, and sometimes when the internet is not stable, we move to WhatsApp. On WhatsApp is not only a text-only app. What I see is that on WhatsApp, the creativity of a teacher is brought to life. I have so many beautiful worksheets that the kids worked on WhatsApp. And I didn't know such possibilities existed until the pandemic came. I was able to use the WhatsApp because I knew the peculiarities of the population I am serving. If you are in North America, you are in Europe, you are in Asia, you need more than ever to know the kind of students you're serving, to know the resources at their disposal, and that will influence your decision on the methods and tools you have to connect. I have some people in Nigeria who actually are risking their lives. There's some teachers on fellowship who are risking their lives to meet kids in the rural area with their worksheets. It could be that bad, but it could be so good too for you in your own community. That's why I said, what I learned from Lynn, I step it down to my community. What Lynn learns from me, for example, I think one day I told Lynn I did hide and seek on Zoom, and she was asking me how, you know. So we learn from each other. I learn and adapt to my situation, and she also learn and adapt to her own situation there. The family and community involvement, very, very important factors for teachers to leverage on. There are opportunities in it and there are threats. Some of the threats is that in Africa, the parent must go to work. The support from government is minimal for kids to keep eating, and that means the parents are totally responsible for their kids. The parents are totally responsible for their kids. The teacher must also be able to understand that parent needs to take care of their kids, and not all parents will be able to afford devices, afford internet 24 hours for the kids. That will also drive our decision making. One thing that really that has helped us on programs we have held in the remote during the pandemic is we try as much as possible to make our engagement online fun for the kids. No matter how much resources you have as a teacher, no matter how much data you have, no matter how much internet, no matter how much devices you have with you, if you are not creative, it's going to be a mess. But sometimes even with limited resources and limited data, you can make a whole lot of sense. You can do this all on your own. Sometimes we just decide to want to involve parents in our fun. I think Lynn will talk about that in the future, in the subsequent slide. But if you involve the family and make them know what exactly is in this for me, it makes them want to do more. It makes them want to say, oh, now I don't have to share my devices with you. I need to get your own devices. That's for us in Africa here. And because the teacher is continuously showing possibilities to the parents, you cannot leave the learning of the students, you cannot leave the family out of learning at this time. And you must also make it attractive. I want to also talk about shared resources, because the goal is that we want to make people aware of the importance of digital literacy. And we want to show them on a very personal level. I like that word, personal level, personalized learning. What can be gained, what can be achieved, what are the opportunities we can leverage on. I like to talk about the issue of shared resources with teachers. Over here, when the pandemic started, I saw that teachers like to make their own videos to share with their own students. For me, in my view, maybe I could read better to know better by tomorrow, but I think that is not too necessary. We can leverage on the millions of resources we have on the internet. And as you leverage on it, you use your time to localize it to your own population. You use the other time you have to bring it down to the students you are serving. So we can share resources. You can't work in a silo if you're going to succeed at this time. You can't work in a silo. You must work with other teachers. You must work with your parents, and you must involve the family. You should deliver engaging lessons such that your students will not like to leave you. This is not a time for lecture method. I'm not sure many teachers do lecture method, but I've attended Zoom classes that I'm an adult, but I tell you, I'm bored. And I have to say, oh man, I have to leave this. I can't continue with you. It's so boring. We can't afford to deliver boring lessons. Now, the reason is we won't see those kids. We might not see those kids in a very long time. Because the ability to provide methods and tools that we connect, engaging method and share resources that will impact on our success. Can we have the next slide, please? Oh my God. All right. And this is to Lynn.
Okay. Well, we just wanted to give you some examples of what we were talking about, because really, hopefully what you get out of this is an actionable item or something that you're like, hey, maybe I could try to do that, excuse me. So it's not the government or the business things, though we can certainly lobby for and be involved in that, but none of us are Google who can put a balloon up. So it's what can you do? And it's really those things, the family involvement, sharing resources, and being creative on how to. So we have the WhatsApp icon. To the right of that, that was Bukola's math Zoom ceremony. Like her, so she had made certificates for them. I came, every family sat down. This was a group who was doing it with her in Nigeria from England. They were in London. And every family got dressed up, was excited for it, the entire family sitting around. So think about, not only are these kids learning, but the parents and the grandparents are seeing the impact it has on the kids, how it can improve their learning, and it also improves their learning. So that is a wonderful thing. And then on the top, I was just showing you some of the resources. Educators have been going crazy the last couple months, creating incredible things that they're just sharing with everyone. So I got these Bitmoji libraries that I obviously substituted mine in. Every one of them was created, shared, and every picture in the Indigenous library, in the Jewish Heritage Library, links to an audio of that book. And it's not just libraries, it's gyms, it's exercise, it's theme rooms, it's just the amount of sharing. And by putting this room up, somebody somewhere else has just given their kids, their students, access to all of these resources. So it's really the access to resources, which is very important for all educators. Now we've gotten to the part where I feel more comfortable, and probably Bukola as well, because this is really our story. This is really what we wanted to tell you guys about, not the like definitions and blah, 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 but how can global connections ease this transition for all of us and mitigate the negative impacts on student learning? Because the global collaborations are the personal pieces that we're using to try to bridge the digital divide. So next slide, please. So this picture is our first group of kids. If you look on my screen on the board, you can see Bukola and all her kids. And I'm taking the picture, so I'm not in it, but those are all my kids. And it was amazing things that, having hooked up with Empatico, and they gave us a platform to communicate, and they gave us ideas. So one time we each did a little presentation on landmarks in our area. One time we did it on festivals in our area. One time we did it, and as Bukola knows, I've learned about my favorite festival, which I think is called fishing?
Argungu Festival, Nigeria.
And could you explain what it involves? Because I thought this was so interesting.
Lynn likes to say Argungu Festival is the festival that has all men in the river at once. I wish I had the picture. All men go into the river at once, and they're trying to look for the biggest fish in the river. The person with the biggest fish goes with lots of awards from the government. We also learned from Lynn's class that there's a river in Florida that makes people younger. It's going to be my first point of call when I go to.
We were talking about the Fountain of Youth. The Fountain of Youth is in St. Augustine, and that's supposedly when you drink from it, it makes you younger. Although I told her I've been going for 15 or 20 years and I drink it every year and it's really not working, but I try. But it's like just little tidbits like that we learn and our kids learn just really expand their knowledge and their understanding of what's going on. Even like when we would talk, honestly, there was often like a gap or sometimes, let's say, their internet would go out, and even my kids just realizing that you can't take for granted that you have this ability was kind of an eye-opener for them. So
Yes, very true.
We'll go to the next slide.
I always remember that any day we have an empatico exchange, the children are always excited, and it's really a good day for them. Any day we have empatico exchange, because there's always something new to learn. It seems as if Lynn is a teacher in the next room or in the next building, waiting to come and see us. All right, Lynn.
Well, this actually was not, I don't think this is our math. Bukola and I, the thing that's been so amazing is since the pandemic, like I said, you need to come up with innovations and other things to do. We've kind of, and we're gonna still do our classroom exchanges for sure, which honestly might be easier in the world of virtual because the kids aren't waiting for their turn. Everybody can be on. But we've also done things with adults and with families. And you can see in the upper left circle is me and the right circle is Bukola. The arrow with the orange is Wendy, who's another Empatico educator. And then on the left, all the way to the left of me is my mommy. So one of the points that I wanted to make, she was interested in learning. She certainly does not know as much about tech or these conversations, but she is so interested to hear about it. I also have though I told them they don't have to speak or turn on their camera. My mother and father-in-law are listening to us today, and they were interested. Oh. So I know, Bukola, you want to meet them. I'll have you meet them another time. I promise no camera.
Lynn met Dad yesterday in the village. She virtually followed me to the village, and we've been talking since then.
And I met Bukola's dad yesterday. So it's not even pulling in just students. We're really talking about the community, the family. The final arrow, the lady beneath me, and I am going to try to say her name correctly, Mama Yamisi Ransom Kuti. She is her family is like a political dynasty there. She is a very well-known, she came into the meeting and spoke to the children and spoke to the adults, and even just having those experiences just expands your digital literacy. It expands your understanding of what is possible when you connect and figure out ways to work together. Anything else for this, Bukola?
I think this was also the meeting in which a child's dad connected from London. The mom is in Nigeria, the dad connected from London too. So we had a big, a diverse community of children and teenagers in the room. And we basically asked them, the question was, how do you feel in the pandemic? How do you feel in the pandemic? And that was what we did that day. Thank you.
Next slide. And so basically, I'll tell you about the pictures, but this is really, like, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the connections and the learning that you get from sharing perspectives, and by making everybody in those groups that are behind understand why it's so important. That's why one of the A's with digital literacy was attitude, because you have to have the understanding, but you have to have the attitude that you can achieve goals through this. On the upper left is Bukola's son, because he opened up the math Zoom meeting with a saxophone solo, which was incredible. And the other two pictures, you can see the kids who were there, they dressed up, they did little performances that their families had planned, and it really went on for a long time, but they were so happy to stay on and share. So really connecting, you can see the words we highlighted. When you have shared experiences and shared learning opportunities and awareness and perspectives, all of those things work together. And that's an action plan for you, an action plan for each individual to say, okay, how can I make this connection and what can I use it for? Bukola?
Yes, ma'am. That this picture was a picture we took on our award night. At the end of the school year, we organized someday to give, to recognize good behavior, not grades in the class. Every child got an award for a strength that has been exhibited in class. I would like to say something about a particular child who he's very young, he's about 4 or 5. He doesn't, I mean, you know, those very energetic, you know, I can barely ask him to do something and he would do it. But the moment I tried to use the whiteboard with him on Zoom, I found out that that was it. He was just in it. And just the moment he gets on the whiteboard, he kept doing things the way I wanted it to be. And for me as a teacher, having that activity helped me to identify the learning style of the particular student. The moment I had identified that he loves to use the whiteboard, I look out for opportunities to help him to use the whiteboard because he must not be left behind. Each child you see in the picture, they all have their strengths and their weaknesses. As a teacher, as an educator, we leverage on those strengths and make them feel happy belonging to a community of learners. Thank you. Next slide.
So thanks again, Lynn and Bukola, for just joining us today and sharing all of your insights and expertise on the digital divide, what you found helpful as far as mitigating those difficulties and those challenges. To anyone who's joined us today, if you have any stories or any strategies that you have found helpful and useful, please feel free to share those on social media using the Empathy Hour hashtag. We'd love to just continue the conversation, keep it going even beyond just this conversation today. And mark your calendars. We've got our next Empathy Hour session is coming up on Wednesday, which is this coming Wednesday, August 5th. We've got Dr. Jen Williams and Dr. Byron McClure, who are going to be joining us to share their insights and expertise around the case for joy, prioritizing SEL and return to school instructional design. I believe that Veronica is going to share the registration form into the chat box in case you're interested in signing up now. And if you'd like to keep in touch with Bukola and Lynn, we've shared their contact information here. We'll plan to share out this entire deck after probably within the next 2 or 3 days or so, so you should have their contact information as well. Feel free to, again, share your own contact information in the chat box in case you would like to keep in touch with each other. We love seeing people making those connections through the Empathy Hours. Here's Lynn's contact information as well. And then if you'd like to keep in touch with Empatico, feel free to follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Contact Veronica if you have any questions about programmatic or fellowship opportunities. Feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in potentially co-hosting an Empathy Hour of your own in the future. And if you have any partnerships, questions, or insights, feel free to get in touch with Eliana. And then, yeah, Bukola and Lynn have compiled this list of resources. I don't know if you would like to share just a couple of quick tidbits about each one.
Sure. Well, what I'd like to do is we, instead of putting it in like here's a never-ending list, if you want to read, if you want to watch, if you want to listen, if you want to join, because everybody has a different learning style. Like I have to admit, watching videos on how to make an assignment doesn't help me that much. I need it written down. So for each of these things, and it was almost like there was too much to find because particularly now, every day I'm opening up and there's an article on the digital divide. Because of the pandemic, it's really being exacerbated and people are recognizing it more. So a couple of them are, like Education World, Edutopia, just ideas for what you can do. I put in the Pew Research Center because it was official. And if you're interested in really seeing the metrics behind it, a great documentary. And then I listed some of the things on the bottom, the world's largest lesson, something with Participate, other organizations in addition to Empatico, which we love. And we want to thank you guys so much for allowing us. for allowing us to be here today. And just, this is like the smallest bit, but it's just to show you that there's tons of things out there you can find.
Yes.
Bukola?
Yes, there are lots of things we can find. We just need to take our time. And I also like to say that you have so much things to find that you also need to be deliberate about what you need to use on your students. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both so much for joining us again. Thank you for anyone in the audience who's joined us and taken the time on this Saturday to be a part of this conversation. Again, feel free to tune back in on August 5th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time for our next Empathy Hour. And yeah, huge thank you to Lynn and Bukola just for taking the time today to, and even leading up this to put together the presentation deck and share, your insights and expertise. I think it's been a very illuminating and edifying conversation for all. We really appreciate having you here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, everyone have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and we hope to see you soon.
Everybody have a great weekend.
Bye.
So thanks again, Lynn and Bukola, for just joining us today and sharing all of your insights and expertise on the digital divide, what you found helpful as far as mitigating those difficulties and those challenges. To anyone who's joined us today, if you have any stories or any strategies that you have found helpful and useful, please feel free to share those on social media using the Empathy Hour hashtag. We'd love to just continue the conversation, keep it going even beyond just this conversation today. And mark your calendars. We've got our next Empathy Hour session is coming up on Wednesday, which is this coming Wednesday, August 5th. We've got Dr. Jen Williams and Dr. Byron McClure, who are going to be joining us to share their insights and expertise around the Case for Joy, prioritizing SEL and return to school instructional design. I believe that Veronica is going to share the registration form into the chat box in case you're interested in signing up now. And if you'd like to keep in touch with Bukola and Lynn, we've shared their contact information here. We'll plan to share out this entire deck after probably within the next 2 or 3 days or so, so you should have their contact information as well. Feel free to, again, share your own contact information in the chat box in case you would like to keep in touch with each other. We love seeing people making those connections through the Empathy Hours. Here's Lynn's contact information as well. And then if you'd like to keep in touch with Empatico, feel free to follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Contact Veronica if you have any questions about programmatic or fellowship opportunities. Feel free to reach out to me if you're interested in potentially co-hosting an Empathy Hour of your own in the future. And if you have any partnerships, questions, or insights, feel free to get in touch with Eliana. And then, yeah, Bukola and Lynn have compiled this list of resources. I don't know if you would like to share just a couple of quick tidbits about each one.
Sure. Well, what I'd like to do is instead of putting it in like here's a never-ending list, if you want to read, if you want to watch, if you want to listen, if you want to join, because everybody has a different learning style. Like I have to admit, watching videos on how to make an assignment doesn't help me that much. I need it written down. So for each of these things, and it was almost like there was too much to find, because particularly now, every day I'm opening up and there's an article on the digital divide. Because of the pandemic, it's really being exacerbated and people are recognizing it more. So a couple of them are, like Education World, Edutopia, just ideas for what you can do. I put in the Pew Research Center because it was official. And if you're interested in really seeing the metrics behind it, a great documentary. And then I listed some of the things on the bottom, the world's largest lesson, something with Participate, other organizations in addition to Empatico, which we love, and we want to thank you guys so much for allowing us to be here today. and just, this is like the smallest bit, but it's just to show you that there's tons of things out there you can find.
Yes.
Bukola?
Yes, there are lots of things we can find. We just need to take our time. And I also like to say that you have so much things to find that you also need to be deliberate about what you need to use on your students. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both so much for joining us again. Thank you for anyone in the audience who's joined us and taken the time on this Saturday to be a part of this conversation. Again, feel free to tune back in on August 5th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time for our next Empathy Hour. And yeah, huge thank you to Lynn and Bukola just for taking the time today to, and even leading up this to put together the presentation deck and share, you know, your insights and expertise. I think it's been a very illuminating and edifying conversation for all. We really appreciate having you here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, everyone have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and we hope to see you soon.
Everybody have a great weekend.
Bye.